Now, in all of these things that we have said, how do we raise these children to be successful digital citizens? Is it just conversation? Is it just explaining things to them? Is there a place for parental control? And I want to introduce that concept today. Parental control is critical, especially for younger children who are still learning the right way to use the internet, where to go, when to go. And because these tools are so addictive, they are made to be addictive. All the good conversations you have with your children might not be enough because you've explained to them they shouldn't be on, they should get off at a particular time, screen time that's excessive is bad for them, all of those things. Yes, they might want to obey, but the reality is that these devices and platforms and social media apps are very addictive. So once you get on, it's hard sometimes to self-regulate and get off. So that's where parental software controls come in place. There are several of them. You can use the Google one that's free. You can use, if you have Apple products, Apple allows you to connect your device as a parent to children's devices and use that to control as well. Or you can use external software like Custodio, which I use. If you check my website, Lagos Moms, you will see that Custodio, parental software controls. That's really good. It helps you put things like limits on when the screens should go off, when the computer should shut down, how many hours they have every day using the laptop or tablet. So it just allows you to put control in place. But I don't suggest you put these controls in place without having conversations with your children. It's not about being a monitoring spirit. It's not about just spying on them. No, it's about letting them know that I'm going to put controls in place and your laptop is going to shut down by 9 p.m. so that you can get off, you can get a good night's sleep and you can do other things. Or maybe your video games. So maybe they're using a Nintendo Switch and you say, you know what, I'm going to allow you to play video games for 2-3 hours a day because you have other things to do. So you put those controls in place. So the controls just help you to put in place the rules that you have discussed with them. So it's not either or, it's and. So you have the conversations with them, you explain why you're controlling, you explain why you're, putting these rules in place to guide them and make sure that they are not on there excessively to the point that it starts to harm other things in their lives and all of that. And then you set the rules in place, whichever tool you want to use, that then helps you to create these controls. And when you put some of these rules in place, it helps you to also block certain dangerous, material. So for example, with Custodio that I use, it allows me to filter out things like gambling so that when the child is online and Googling, certain things will not even show up for them, right? So that's part of doing this. It's not because you don't trust your children, but it's just because the internet and the IP address doesn't know if the user of that computer is a child or not. So they might be innocently going into Google to search something, either for research, for school, or they're just curious. It's okay to be curious. Curiosity is fine. However, that doesn't mean that in being curious, we want them to be exposed to the wrong thing. So I really recommend that all parents have parental controls in place of some capacity, even if it's just a time one. So at a particular time, you can say your child's device should shut down, your child's phone to shut down. Your child should not be able to access social media channels or social media apps after 9 p.m., for example, on a school night. It helps your child to self-regulate as well because then they get used to it. Otherwise, you get into that rabbit hole of swiping and liking and commenting and you forget the time and you look later, it's 5 hours and you're like, oh my God, how did I spend that long online? Now, as parents, it might be easier for you to regulate yourself because either you have to go to bed, you're going to work the next day, or if you don't do your work, your boss is going to know that you didn't deliver. There's almost some more inbuilt, monitoring that happens as an adult. For children, though, because their brains are still developing, if you let them get used to this abuse of screen time, it's going to be very difficult for them later on to detach from it. And you don't want them to get to a point where it becomes a difficult addiction. It has become such a second nature to them that they do not know when to get up. They do not know when to break away. You need to help them. So do I recommend parental software installed on your children's devices? Yes, absolutely. Especially if you have children younger than 16, because once they start getting to 16 and older, you can't really do that anymore. So your work needs to be before that time when they are no longer under your supervision, when it comes to digital devices anyway, because your child could not have left home or be going away to university or A-levels and you're still saying I'm doing software monitoring on their devices. doesn't really work. So the earlier you do the work, the earlier you ensure that your children understand how to self-regulate, you've put the controls in place to help them do that, then you are really on your way to raising a successful digital citizen.